Savannah Drake stepped off the plane, her chin high, exuding that same magnetic confidence that always drew attention. She felt no shame for the 6-week affair she had just concluded in Argentina. Why should she? She was accomplished, desirable, and suffocated by her marriage to Ryan. Dr. Thomas Hale had awakened something long dormant within her, an intoxicating passion that had seemed to justify everything she did. Their affair had been thrilling, even reckless, until Ryan's furious phone call tore the fantasy apart. His voice, trembling with anger, had caught her off guard. She'd always considered him too meek to raise his voice, but hearing him curse had sparked an odd mix of fear and respect. As the days turned into weeks, Thomas's charisma wore thin. Once he sensed the cracks in her marriage, he began to show his true nature. Possessive, mocking, cruel. What had felt liberating became humiliating, yet Savannah refused to admit regret. Pride was her armor. She endured his verbal jabs, his smug superiority, telling herself she was still in control. The affair ended as abruptly as it had begun. On their flight back to the States, Thomas deliberately swapped his seat to avoid her. Savannah's pride burned hotter than her heartbreak. Penny, her co-worker and confidant, tried to console her, but Penny had her own disasters to manage. Her husband, Josh, had found out about her affair after Ryan threatened exposure. By the time they landed on U.S. soil, Penny was served divorce papers before she even reached baggage claim. Savannah expected the same fate, bracing herself for legal documents that never came. When no one approached her, she felt a strange relief. To her, it confirmed what she'd always believed. Ryan wouldn't dare leave. He was too sentimental, too dependent. She convinced herself he was home, waiting, maybe angry, but ultimately too weak to act. 6 weeks away had been long enough. She was ready to reassert control, to come home triumphant. But that illusion shattered the moment she stepped into the lobby of the Lancaster Hotel. Expecting Ryan to be there waiting, she found emptiness instead. No familiar face, no welcoming husband. Dismissing the flicker of unease, she strode to the front desk, chin still high. One by one, her credit cards were declined. A cold tremor slid down her spine. She forced a smile, insisting the clerk try again. The man behind the counter only shook his head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. None of these are authorized." The whispers from the queue behind her sliced through her composure. She stepped aside, pretending calm, her pulse pounding. Ryan must have made some mistake. He wasn't vindictive. He never had been. Until now. She called his number. Disconnected. No voicemail, no trace. Panic prickled beneath her skin. Then a man in a dark suit approached. He didn't look like a process server, more like a concierge. He extended a manila envelope. "Mr. Drake wanted you to have this." No explanation, no apology. Savannah tore it open. Inside was a typed letter and a smaller sealed envelope. As she read, her stomach turned. Ryan hadn't forgiven her. He had transformed into someone she didn't recognize. Cold, calculating, and vengeful. One line stood out like a blade. "You apparently justified your behavior by convincing yourself I had an affair with Claire while overseas. I did not. I comforted a friend, nothing more. You built your fantasy to excuse your betrayal." She kept reading, her breath uneven. "I also know about your little late-night parking at the Rosewood Inn years ago. You never confessed, but I know. And since you've decided that our marriage allows one partner to do whatever they want, I'm simply following your example. Turnabout is fair play." Turnabout? Savannah's heart thudded faster. He wasn't bluffing. Each paragraph twisted the knife deeper. "I've sold the house, drained the accounts, cancelled the cards, and quit my job. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Somewhere you won't find me. I also sent the evidence of your escapades to HR. They're preparing to terminate both you and your dear Dr. Hale. I've made sure Monday will be memorable." Savannah's vision blurred. Her job, the one thing that defined her, was slipping away. He wanted her to feel powerless. And then came the cruelest line. "I've shown the children everything. The photos, the messages. They know the truth. I told them I'll call you as often as you called me, 0 times. Her breath caught. The children. Their faces flashed in her mind, full of judgment she couldn't bear to imagine. Finally, the last blow. "I'm not divorcing you. If you want freedom, file for abandonment. I've taken what I need, the house, the savings, the kids' respect. Enjoy the open marriage you seem to crave. Oh, and I left you one last gift, a $500 Visa card. That's all you have left." Savannah's knees went weak. The humiliation was total. She shoved the letter back into the envelope, jaw trembling, refusing to cry. Not here, not in public. Lifting her chin again, she approached the front desk once more. "My husband left me in a bind," she said through gritted teeth. "But I'll pay in cash." The clerk hesitated. "We require a deposit and valid ID, ma'am." She dug through her bag, barely $100. Nowhere near enough. Her pride fractured as she tore open the smaller envelope and retrieved the gift card. "Try this," she snapped. The transaction went through. "One night," the clerk said, handing her the key. "Room 1010, Miss Drake. Enjoy your stay." Enjoy! She snatched the card, signaling for a bellhop. Fury surged through her veins, hot and poisonous. As she marched toward the elevator, she imagined Ryan smugly watching somewhere, savoring her downfall. Upstairs, alone in the sterile hotel room, Savannah paced, every muscle trembling. The skyline glittered mockingly through the window. Her reflection stared back, a woman unraveling. How had she miscalculated so badly? She'd thought she was untouchable. She'd laughed at Ryan's emotional outbursts, certain he'd always crawl back. She'd mistaken gentleness for weakness. Now she saw what real power looked like: quiet, patient revenge. After a restless night, Savannah woke with new resolve. This wasn't over. She would call the bank, the kids, the hospital fix, everything. By mid-morning, she sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, listening to the sterile voice of a customer service representative. "Ma'am, Mr. Ryan Drake closed all joint accounts using a valid power of attorney. We're unable to disclose further details." Her grip tightened. "He had no right." "I'm sorry, ma'am. The documentation was complete." Savannah slammed the phone down, fury clawing at her chest. Next, she tried her son voicemail. Her daughter also voicemail. "It's urgent," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. "Call me back." No reply. She dressed sharply, gathering the fragments of her old composure, and called a cab to the hospital. The HR department had to see reason. Ryan's accusations were the rantings of a vindictive husband. They wouldn't ruin her career over gossip. Or so she thought. The HR office smelled of coffee and tension. Behind the reception desk sat a woman with a crisp bun and a nameplate reading Ms. Henderson, HR manager. Savannah recognized the name instantly. It had appeared in Ryan's letter. "Ms. Drake," Henderson said coolly. "We've been expecting you." Savannah forced a smile. "I assume you've received some absurd claims from my husband." "We received photos," Henderson interrupted flatly, sliding a folder across the desk. "Photos and statements from a private investigator. He's threatened to sue for breach of our moral conduct clause if we continue employing you or Dr. Hale." Savannah froze. "You can't be serious." "That's my private life. It has nothing to do with my work." Henderson arched an eyebrow. "You signed our code of ethics, remember? It applies to managerial staff whose conduct may reflect on the hospital's reputation." She tapped the clause with a manicured finger. "Public scandal qualifies as grounds for suspension." "This is ridiculous," Savannah snapped. "It wasn't public." "Oh, it's public now. Your husband circulated those photos to staff, donors, and board members. We've received several complaints already. Some from people who were quite fond of you, I might add." Savannah's face burned. "You're suspending me?" "Effective immediately," Henderson said, sliding another envelope forward. Pending review. Savannah's jaw clenched. She wanted to scream, but her throat constricted. As she turned to leave, Henderson added quietly, Security will escort you to collect your belongings. A tall guard appeared behind her, impassive and silent. Every step down the hallway felt heavier. Her co-worker's eyes followed her, some pitying, most judgmental. Whispered fragments buzzed in her ears. That's her, the nurse from the emails. Her humiliation was complete. At the end of the corridor stood Thomas Hale. His once confident face was pale, slick with sweat, surrounded by gossiping nurses. When he saw her, his expression twisted. What the hell have you done? You think this is my fault? Savannah hissed. Ryan's insane! Your husband destroyed my career, he snapped. I'm under investigation. My wife's leaving me. You've ruined everything. Savannah's voice dripped venom. You ruined yourself, Thomas! Maybe next time you'll choose your mistress more carefully. The elevator dinged. Security motioned them apart. Thomas muttered, Guess this is it. Savannah's glare was cold as steel. Enjoy the freedom you wanted. And with that, she walked away. Savannah was almost to the hospital's sliding doors when a familiar voice cut through the murmur of the lobby. She turned to find Nora from next door, the same neighbor whose boastful talk about ethical non-monogamy had once inflamed Savannah's imagination. Nora stood with arms folded, gaze cold. Well, look who finally returned from her grand tour, Nora said, eyes flicking over Savannah's tailored blouse. I assume you read Ryan's letter. Savannah's stomach tightened. What are you doing here? Taking my partner to a checkup, Nora replied. Then I swung by HR to sign paperwork for a part-time post. Your face is everywhere, Savannah. Hard to miss. Savannah forced a brittle smile. Save the performance. I know what you and Victor get up to. Do not pretend you are any better than me. Nora let out a sharp, humorless laugh. We are open, not deceitful. There is a difference. Victor and I talk. We agree. No secrets. You tried to draft me as cover while you hid everything from your husband. That is not how it works. Do not lecture me, Savannah snapped. You paraded your lifestyle and made it look easy. Look where that led. Your choices led here, Nora said, voice low. Ryan is a decent man. If you had been honest, maybe you two could have built something. Instead, you lied, manipulated, and humiliated him. You never even asked him. Savannah's fists clenched. You are defending him after he sold my house and took my money. He is the monster. Nora's expression hardened. Actions have consequences. I told him over dinner that he deserved better. He wanted no part in dragging us into your scheme. He found the idea nauseating once he realized you were using us to deceive your partner. Heat flashed across Savannah's face. The retort she wanted died on her tongue. Enjoy your freedom, Nora, she sneered at last. Tell Ryan, I hope he likes his life in that rust bucket. She pivoted and stormed through the doors into a slate sky. Rain began to fall, pinprick cold against her cheeks. By the time she reached the curb, the clouds had opened. She climbed into a cab, soaked and shaking. Back at the Lancaster, Savannah's room felt smaller. Her cards were dead, her bank accounts empty, and the home she had decorated now belonged to someone else. She dialed 2 former co-workers in a last-ditch attempt to find an ally. One answered, hesitated, and then admitted Ryan had sent an email blast. The other did not pick up at all. Shame curdled into anger. Marriages had survived worse, she told herself. Who were they to judge? The hours dragged. Her phone remained silent until an avalanche of forwarded messages arrived. She scrolled with a grimace. Subjects read like taunts. My wife's new life. Physicians without scruples. She saw images of herself with Thomas, cruelly framed to humiliate. Every open email made her chest tighten. She paced, vowing to sue, to scorch the earth. But a single, unyielding question hovered. How do you call slander when the evidence is real. Morning brought a single flicker of hope. Her daughter returned her call by voicemail, the tone careful and distant. "Mom, I got your message. I saw everything. Dad was thorough. I love you, but I cannot be part of this fight. I need time. Please do not call for a while." Savannah pressed the phone to her chest, fighting tears. She called back anyway, straight to voicemail. She tried her son. No answer. She left more messages, each shorter than the last. When no one called back, she opened her laptop and searched for attorneys. One after another declined. A blunt paralegal summarized the problem in a minute. If the files are genuine, it is not defamation. If assets were moved under a valid power of attorney, litigation could be long and costly. Without funds, your options are limited. Savannah closed the computer with a snap, guilt and rage warring inside her. In the afternoon, an email popped up from an unfamiliar address. Her heart lurched. Ryan. "Savannah, I set this up temporarily. It will be gone soon. Now you know how it feels when your life is rewritten without your consent. A storage unit holds a few of your things. Nothing worth selling. Some letters, trinkets. It will be unlocked Saturday from 8 to noon. After that, it is trash. I will not be there. I am already a few states away. The open road suits me. Consider this the last courtesy I owe you. R." Savannah hammered out a reply, demanding to know where he was, but the message bounced. The address had already been deactivated. Saturday dawned gray and windless. At 7:45 a.m., Savannah waited outside a row of dented storage units on the edge of town, gift card funds dwindling, her stomach hollow from a dinner of crackers. A manager shuffled up at 2 minutes to 8 and unlocked a metal door. "You're Miss Drake," he said in a monotone. "Said to open at 8, lock at noon." Inside, 5 boxes sat in a dusty row, each labeled in Ryan's tidy print. Junk, misc, keepsakes, letters, Savannah's indulgences. She slit the tape and began to sort. Old trinkets, ticket stubs, a snow globe from a mountain town, a cracked coffee mug from a hospital fundraiser, a faded lanyard. She found a photo from years ago of a ski trip. Ryan's arm draped over her shoulder, both smiling into a bright winter sky. A sharp ache cut through her. She set the picture aside, then shoved it into a bag with a stubborn flick of her wrist. By 9:30, she had whittled the pile to a few mementos she could carry. She told herself she did not care about the letters, then shoved them into her tote anyway. If there was a record of their life, she wanted her copy. She lugged the boxes to the curb and scanned for a taxi. A sedan pulled into the lot and parked. An older woman stepped out, careful and composed. "Savannah," the woman said, "I am Elise Porter. My husband, Alan, and I bought your house from Ryan." Savannah's breath hitched. She remembered a line in Ryan's letter about the young couple. Elise looked older than Savannah had pictured, but there was a liveliness in her eyes that softened the difference. "Yes," Savannah said flatly. "Congratulations." "I am not here to gloat," Elise said gently. "Ryan told us about the unit and said we might find a few items related to the sale. He also said you would be here this morning. I wanted to say I am sorry. I did not know the circumstances until after we signed." "My home," Savannah said, voice cracking. "My floors. The deck I paid for." "The sale was legal," Elise said softly. "I know that is not comforting. He told us you wanted a clean break. I can see that was not true. If you ever want to stop by, to see the place, to say goodbye, we could arrange it." "Stop," Savannah snapped, tears burning hot. "I do not need pity. Enjoy it. Paint the walls. Make it yours. I do not care." Elise nodded once. "All right. I wish you better days." She carried a small box back to her car and left without another word. Savannah stared at the curb, throat tight. She dragged her things into a cab and returned to the hotel, where the front desk informed her the gift card could cover only one more night. By morning, it was empty. She searched online for cheaper lodging and ended up in a roadside motel with peeling paint and a buzzing sign. stale air clung to the room. The mattress sagged. She looked in the cracked mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Liner smudged under her eyes, hair limp, clothes wrinkled from days of wear. She sank onto the bed, a roach skittering along the nightstand. Her phone rang, an unknown number. She answered with a jolt of hope that died on the first syllable. "Savannah," Thomas said, his voice raw. "You win. They fired me. Word is out across half the region. My wife is leaving. Congratulations." "I win," Savannah said, laughing once, bitter and empty. "I am at a motel with a broken lock and no food. Ryan torched everything." "That is what you get for picking me," he said, venomous. "Maybe next time, choose a fling whose husband is not strategic enough to level a career field." Silence pooled between them. He hung up first. Savannah stared at the ceiling. The last residue of excitement she had once felt for Thomas curdled into disgust. A petty thought flared. She scrolled to Ferris, one of Ryan's old military friends. If anyone knew where Ryan had gone, Ferris would. "Hello," he answered. "It is Savannah," she said tightly. "Tell me where he is." A weary sigh crossed the line. "He asked me not to talk to you." "Do not you dare hang up," she snapped. "You have no idea what lies he is spreading." "I know enough," Ferris said. "He is hurt. He needs space. Handle this without me." The line went dead. The week bled into two. The hospital's formal letter arrived at the motel, naming the code of conduct clause and terminating her with cause. Recruiters stopped returning messages. The last of the gift card was gone. She took her jewelry to a pawnshop and walked out with a fraction of what it had cost. She read and reread Ryan's original letter until the paper felt thin. The line that lodged in her chest never changed. "I am not divorcing you. If you want out, file for abandonment. I have taken what I need. Just once, if you do not mind." She had tossed that phrase at him during a smug call from abroad, and now he had welded it into a weapon. The cruelty was not loud. It was meticulous and relentless. At last, she booked a consultation with a family attorney. She arrived with a folder of emails, the power of attorney she had once signed without a second thought, and the termination notice. The attorney paged through everything with professional calm. "This is uphill," the attorney said. "He executed the documents properly. Real estate transfers are recorded. The accounts are closed under his authority as agent. You can allege misuse, but you would need resources to litigate. As for defamation, the truth is a defense." Savannah stared at the fee schedule. The numbers felt surreal, like watching someone else's bill. "You can file for divorce on abandonment," the attorney continued. "Serve him wherever he is found. It will still take time. Time and money. Two things Savannah lacked. She left the office numb, drove the second-hand compact she had bought with pawn money back to the motel, and sat in the parking lot with the engine ticking and rain gathering in puddles. She let the tears come then, quiet and unstoppable. And when they finished, she felt drained but no lighter. Inside, the boxes from the storage unit waited in the corner like squat witnesses. She pulled out the bundle of letters and flipped through them until a familiar sheet surfaced. It was a draft she had written years earlier after a brutal argument about trust. She had never given it to Ryan. She had threatened in those lines to shatter his illusions if he ever betrayed her. Reading it now scorched her throat. She had been the betrayer, and he had become the destroyer. The next day, the front desk refused to extend her stay without payment. She checked out with a single bag and moved to an even cheaper motor lodge by the interstate. That night, in a room that smelled of old smoke and bleach, her phone rang again. No caller ID. She did not answer. She watched it buzz until it fell silent. She opened her photo gallery instead. There was the old snapshot from the Rosewood Inn, a younger Savannah smirking at the camera, a nameless man at her side. She deleted the image and waited for relief that did not come. Too many copies existed elsewhere. Ryan had already siphoned what he needed. She scrolled to the end and stared at a dark, blank square. Then she set the phone aside and stared at the ceiling, counting the ticks of a leaky faucet. More days passed. She tried another law office and received the same answer in different words. Without money, there was no war chest. Without a war chest, there was no fight. Without a fight, there was only paperwork she could file herself and a slow calendar grind. She drove to a public library and printed the forms for abandonment. The pages felt like a surrender. On the way back to the motel, she pulled over and sat with the hazards blinking, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. She had wanted independence and adventure. She had imagined champagne in strange cities and a husband tamed by her allure. Instead, Ryan had given her isolation and silence. He had returned her contempt with something colder than fury. It was strategy. It was patience. It was total. Back in the room, she laid the forms on the desk beside the letters and the single ski photo. She thought of the laughter in that picture, how easily she had tossed it aside, and of the day she first pressed Thomas's number into her phone with a thrill in her chest. She thought of Nora's hard eyes, of Elisa's careful apology, of her daughter's careful voice. When she finally spoke aloud, the words surprised her. "I did this," she said to the empty room. "I lit the match." She wanted to add that Ryan had doused her life with fuel. Both could be true. She let the two truths sit side by side, jagged and unwelcome. Night folded over the freeway outside. Neon bled through the curtains. The faucet ticked. Savannah lay on the thin mattress and listened to the sound until she could no longer tell whether the dampness on her cheek was from the leak or from her tears. She hugged her knees and let the bitterness run through her without fighting it. If she had been kinder, maybe they would have negotiated a different path. If she had not laughed at Ryan's pain, maybe he would not have turned so ruthless. If she had simply told the truth at the start, maybe the house would still be hers, the job intact, the children unashamed to pick up the phone. The thoughts marched past, relentless and late. The letters on the desk did not move. The faucet kept time. The freeway hummed. When she finally closed her eyes, one conviction remained. A single act of betrayal had not just broken her marriage. It had triggered a chain of consequences she could not outpace or outwit. And the man she had called weak had proven he could be far more merciless than she had ever imagined. She exhaled, a harsh breath that caught in her throat, and the room settled back into its small sounds. Behind her eyelids, the lights of the city pulsed in slow rhythm, and the night stretched long.